engaging celebrity interviews, exciting updates from Christian filmmakers, movie reviews so you can choose your movies wisely, and so much more here on Faith on Film with Isaac Hernandez and Holly McClure.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Faith on Film. I am your host, Isaac Hernandez, here with my co-host, Holly McClure.
Hey, everyone.
So, Holly, I'm excited about today's show because, first of all, I really like the whole idea of the universe and planets and all that. I think if I had been invited to fly on the spaceship, if you will, years ago, I would have said yes because I really enjoy that stuff. And so today we have somebody that has created a very nice documentary about the universe called Universe Designed. Interesting thing is he was an atheist until he started doing a lot of research and
That's right.
became a Christian.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The interview is fascinating. We're going to talk to you about it today.
Yeah. Now, you want to talk about something else after that, though, after our interview that you feel, it seems like you're very passionate about.
Well, I went to see the movie Animal Farm thinking, okay, good, a kid's animated film, rated PG. No, folks, I did not like it. And I'm going to tell you why later on in the show.
Sounds like a good show to me. All right, well, let's start off with the trailer to Universe Designed and then on to the interview with, I forgot his name, Michael Ray Lewis.
Any person who is truly a thinking person needs to ask themselves the question, why is there something rather than nothing?
Scientists believe there's an intelligible answer to that, meaning there is a reason for the way things are. What's that reason?
Why do I exist? Why do you exist? Why does the universe exist?
Physicists have discovered fundamental constants and parameters and characteristics that define the universe have to assume exacting, precise values.
If you were to change any one of them, there would either be no universe or no universe that could support life.
Our galaxy, our star, our planetary system, the Earth, the Moon, whatever size scale you choose to look at, you see an overwhelming experimental and observational case that there is a being out there fine-tuning, intervening.
Immersing myself in the study of biochemical systems, I became deeply impressed with the ingenuity and the elegance and the sophistication of those systems.
The living cell is chock full of miniature machines that doesn't just rival, but it vastly exceeds our own high-tech digital technology.
There must be a creator that's behind life itself.
If some kind of a God existed, he would want to reveal himself, at least in some way. We would have to look at all of the different ways people have understood him to do that.
I want to know, is there any evidence backing any one of them up as uniquely being true?
This guy shows up on the scene and does something remarkable. Whatever it is he did, split history.
He's on the pages of the Quran, on the pages of Baha'u'llah's sacred writings, on the pages of Buddhism, Hinduism, Krishna, New Age.
These Romans were skilled in crucifixion. They knew how to make sure that someone was completely dead.
Many of Jesus' disciples had experiences that Jesus had risen from the dead.
What did they gain? Well, they were beaten, tortured, persecuted, beheaded, stoned, whipped, and running for their lives.
We really have to put our beliefs to the fire.
The reason we believe God is true is because he's the best explanation for the way things are.
There are truths that can be known, and I want to know what they are.
Well, we are here right now with Michael Ray Lewis. He's the director and writer of Universe Design, which is the documentary of what you just saw a trailer right now. So welcome to Faith on Film, Michael.
Thank you guys for having me.
Now, I love documentaries, and I've seen this entire documentary, and I got to tell you, this thing is as good a quality as anything that I've seen in some of the major top networks that air these kind of documentaries. So I was very impressed, and that's why I wanted to have you on. But before we even talk about the documentary itself, I want to talk a little bit about you and who you are, because I learned that you were an atheist until, I guess, your wife told you that she felt like Jesus was calling her back. Let's find out what that was about.
That's right. Well, so I didn't grow up in a Christian home. I grew up in a home where my family would probably say they believed in God. We had a Bible under the bed somewhere, but we never read it. We never talked about God. And so as I got older, to be honest with you, I was just never really given a good reason to believe it to begin with. And so I started to gravitate towards atheism, mainly because of I became interested in astronomy. I saw Christians, and I interacted with Christians on the street corners that had signs that were just yelling at me that I'm going to hell. And I just saw it as an illogical belief system. I saw it as a belief system that I didn't want to be a part of. And so I kind of gravitated towards atheism. And on top of that, I could ask Christians difficult questions that they weren't able to answer. I started watching documentaries. There was one called Religulous, I believe, by Bill Maher. There was another one called Zeitgeist. And in both of these documentaries, they would show that Christianity is just an illogical belief system, that Jesus wasn't an actual historical figure. He was just a myth copied by all these other ancient myths that preceded him. And I kind of held that belief. Looking back at it today, I probably would have said I was more agnostic than atheist, only because I hadn't taken the time to really look at the topic seriously. That didn't happen until after I got married. My wife, she did grow up in the church, but she was pulled away as she got older. And one day she came home one day and she said, I feel like Jesus is calling me back. And I remember thinking to myself, oh man, I don't want to deal with this. But you know what? I love her and I'll go see what this is all about. And I remember we walked into a church and I'm sitting in the congregation looking around. I'm like, I get it. These aren't necessarily the people with the signs yelling at me on the street corners. And I get it. It gives them something to hope in. It gives them something to believe in. I just don't think that it's actually true. And so I figured all I have to do to stop going to church and stop dealing with this, because I started to get tired of it over some time. I figured all I have to do is just show her that it's not true. And so I started hitting my wife with all the hard questions I hit believers with before. And she wasn't able to answer those questions either. But no matter what, she was adamant that it was true. And she went as far as to buy me a Bible. And in the Bible, she wrote, "Let this take you where you will go." And I remember I opened it and I started to read through the first few chapters of Genesis. I thought, this is ridiculous. 6 days, I closed it, I pushed it away. And then
love it. 6 days, that's ridiculous. Of course, you didn't read the part where God said 1,000 years is to a day.
I hadn't got to that part yet, exactly. And so when I pushed it away, I kind of had just left it at that point. But then a little while later, there was a video that popped up on my YouTube feed. And it was a video by an astrophysicist by the name of Dr. Hugh Ross, going over his perspective of the creation days and how they actually correlate with what the discoveries that we found in cosmology and astronomy. And that was the first moment where it kind of piqued my curiosity. And I said, maybe I need to take a second look at this. Maybe I need to look a little bit deeper. And so I did. I started buying books. I learned about something called apologetics, that there's people out there giving a defense for what they believe and giving reasons for evidences for the existence of God, and not just the existence of God, but specifically for the Christianity being true, the deity of Jesus, the resurrection of Jesus. And I started kind of accumulating all of this information, but I was still reluctant. It took 3 years to convince me. This was a very slow process. But at the end of the 3 years, I realized that the evidence was sound and that it wasn't the evidence that was holding me back, but the fact that I didn't want it to be true. And when I realized that, that was when I said to myself, that's not a good reason. So I gave my life to Jesus. And since then, I've been on a mission to show people the evidences that I have found.
Michael, what was your wife's name? What is your wife's name?
Christina with a K.
Well, what a perfect name. Christina.
Yep. She definitely, she was amazing through all of it. Because you've got to think, like, she would try to reach out to her friends that were believers, and she would say all the struggles that she was having with me. And the only response that she would get is, we'll be praying for you.
Yeah.
So we'll be praying for you in that. And no one equipped her. And I think that's what drives me crazy today, is the fact that most people are not aware of the fact that we believe something that's actually true and the evidence backs it up. And if you would just equip yourself, even at the just a surface level of the evidence, you would be able to respond to most of the major objections to Christianity in conversations with others and be able to knock down those roadblocks that some people may have, that they think it's an intellectual problem, they think it's an evidence problem, but in reality it's not. And the only way they're going to realize that is to knock down those roadblocks.
You know, you mentioned Dr. Hugh Ross. Interestingly enough, I used to direct his show that was on TBN. I don't know if that's one of the ones you saw or not, but I used to direct his show. I found his material very interesting.
Yeah, Hugh Ross was a huge impact for me. Absolutely.
Did you also interview or hear about Greg Koukl?
I did.
He's in apologetics. I used to be on radio with him years ago. He's amazing and fascinating. Well, and your documentary then shows people, it's the evidence, right, that you're unveiling, or at least trying to show people, specifically Christians. I love what you said, because we're not equipped. And the church has not equipped a whole generation or two, I think, because they stopped teaching word. They teach a little scripture here and there and then their own message. But, you know, people really don't know the Bible, I think, on the whole.
No, you're absolutely right. And what's crazy is I didn't realize that until after I became a believer. Even after, like, during my whole process, once I gave my life to Christ, I just assumed that this was kind of what every Christian did. They went through this struggle of doubt. They discovered evidence. They gave their life to Jesus. And even though I knew as an atheist, people weren't able to answer my questions, still in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, this is how it works. And so when I started attending the church and I started having conversations with others, it was 95% of the people I was talking to had no idea apologetics was even a field of study. They had no idea how to properly explain the Trinity. They had no idea how to properly explain the deity of Jesus or even the gospel message. Most of them could cite the gospel message, but they couldn't explain it to a non-believer. And I think that's where we fail in our evangelism, is that we're not properly equipped to be able to help people to understand what we believe and why we believe it.
Well, can you give us a little bit more comprehensive details of what this documentary is all about? What do you expect people maybe to learn from it?
So when I decided that I was going to make this film, to kind of put it in perspective, prior to this, I was doing horror films as an atheist. A lot of low budget stuff. I was mostly hired as the DP, so I'd be the guy behind the camera, or I'd be the editor for the project. But I'd always been trying to figure out what I was going to do as a director. When I gave my life to Jesus, it was like everything shifted. My entire perspective of reality shifted. And so my heart for film shifted as well. And it was actually my wife's idea, who said to me, why don't you do a documentary based on the evidence that persuaded you? And so I figured, okay, I'm going to get a camera. I'm going to go find a bunch of people who maybe used to be atheist, have them give their testimony coming from atheism and the reasons for it. And my wife said, no, look at the people, the books that you had read, send them emails and see if they would be open to being interviewed for the film. And so I did. My first email went out to Frank Turek. He responded and said, yes, I would love to be a part of the film. And so the next email went to Hugh Ross, which was the guy that impacted me. And he responded and said, yes, I'd love to be a part of it. You mentioned Greg Koukl. I emailed Greg Koukl because he was a huge impact on me as well. And he responded and said, yes, I'll be a part of it. And so one after another, I was able to get some of the world's top Christian apologists. And I had no plan for what my idea of the film was going to be. All I knew was that I had these amazing people to get interviews for. And I went out, bought plane tickets, and flew out there. Now, I understood their field of study, so I knew what types of questions to ask them. But I basically just approached it as if I were an atheist asking the hard questions and allowing them to answer those questions through these interviews. At the end of it, I ended up with 36 hours of content that I had to condense down to an hour and 25-minute film. Have it tell a story, have it create a compelling case for Christianity, but not be so overwhelming of information to lose people's interest. And so my goal and my passion behind the storyline of the film is we address some of the major topics surrounding apologetics. The evidence for God by the beginnings of the universe, the evidence for God within the fine-tuning that we see in the universe, the problems with the theory of evolution, the evidence we see for God based on the information embedded in DNA. But then I shift gears to say, okay, well, if God does exist, how do we know that it's the God of Christianity? Well, that all hinges on the reliability of Scripture and the evidence surrounding the resurrection of Jesus. So the entire second half of the film is shifting gears to show why we think, or why I think Christianity specifically is true. I take you all the way through this journey on the evidence, ultimately leading you to what Jesus says about you, what he says about reality, and what our purpose here is. And so I start the film with asking big questions, laying out the evidence for what it is, and allowing the viewer to come to their own conclusion. And the reason that I did it this way is because I didn't want to overwhelm the non-believer. That this is a film for the non-believer. This is an evangelistic tool for the believer to be able to go out and start these conversations, and to help, hopefully, as Greg Kokel says, to put a stone in their shoe, to get them thinking in a good way, to leave them something that sticks with them and causes them to start second-guessing their worldview and second-guessing their purpose here. And so that's what my hope is with the film. It's to encourage believers, equip them, and challenge them to be sharing the gospel, in addition to putting that pebble in the stone, or that stone in someone's shoe who's not a believer, and get them thinking.
Well, I tell you, not only was I impressed with, of course, your writing of this documentary and all the interviews that you had, but visually, and I'm a visual person, visually, it was just stunning.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we one of the things I was committed to, because like I said, I was a DP prior to this, so I was the guy behind. I was the guy behind the camera. I was the guy editing most of it, and so my goal originally was, one of the things I don't like doing is I don't like using stock footage, and so I was adamant that I was going to go out and film all of this footage. And so I outsourced some of it to where I would hire a guy that maybe lived out of the country, of a location that I couldn't get to, and I would hire him to film those locations. But for the most part, it was just me, a camera, maybe one or two other guys there to just help set up the interviews and get the footage. And then I hired a visual effects artist, which created all of the planets, all of the galaxies, and all of the visuals that you see during the topics of evolution and all of that. And so the only stock footage I ended up using was maybe 3 or 4 clips of animals that I just couldn't get footage for. And so, yeah, we attempted to try to show it a very cinematic, visually appealing documentary to help keep people's interest and just to tell the story.
Now, is it available now? Can people actually go watch it somewhere now?
Yeah, absolutely. So we released the film this past December on Amazon, Apple TV, Google Play, YouTube, Vimeo. Those are the major streaming sites. And then this past April 2nd, we just got approved to be on the Angel Studios platform. So if you have an Angel Studios subscription, we are on there as well.
Very, very nice. Well, listen, thank you so much for sharing this with us. Like I said, I watched it and I was just absolutely impressed with it. How can people follow you, especially if they want to know more about
Isaac,
future projects? Yeah.
And Isaac, let's tell the name of the documentary so people know where to go look it up on Isaac. On all this stuff.
I think I mentioned it at the very beginning. It's called Universe Design. So look up, go to any one of these platforms that Michael was talking about and look up Universe Design. Again, it was a stunning documentary.
Thank you. And art. So remember when I said I had filmed 36 hours of content? I'm slowly posting all of that on my social media channels. And so on Facebook, Instagram, I think we have a TikTok account, YouTube, all of those were on the social media platforms. And my goal is to continue making films like this. So I did this entire film on $150,000 budget.
Wow.
Which is extremely low and was very excruciating to make on that low of a budget. And so my goal is that whatever money the film makes, I'll take that and I'm going to put it towards the next project. And I'm going to continue making these films. We were able to do this film mostly based on donations. And so we still have the donation channel or link set up on the website so that if you want to help us fund future projects, you can. But the goal is to continue to create films based on 1 Peter 3:15, always being prepared to give a defense for the hope that you have within you, and creating films to help navigate people to the resources that are out there, because I'm not a scholar, but there are so many apologetic resources out there that people can get to that they're just not aware of. And so my goal is to create something cinematic, pique their curiosity, and then direct them to go to the research through those ministries.
And what is the website?
universedesigned.com.
That's pretty simple. All right. Well, again, thank you so much, man. We look forward to maybe having you on again when you come up with your new project. All right.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Folks, don't go away. We'll be back with more Faith on Film.
What makes Capernaum Studios different from other movie studios? We believe in empowering filmmakers to make stories that matter, inspire, uplift, and transform lives. From historically authentic sets to state-of-the-art, fully equipped sound stages, we offer immersive LED and green screen stages, ICVFX virtual production, period to modern sets, a first-century village featured in The Chosen, and much more. We provide everything filmmakers need to focus on what matters in making their vision a reality, producing meaningful content affordably without compromising creativity. Discovering what's possible when creativity meets purpose. Capernaum Studios, empowering filmmakers to make dreams a reality.
Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that interview. I know I certainly did.
Yes.
Holly, what do we have coming up that you seem to be so passionate about?
Well, Animal Farm has been out, I think, for like a week or so now. It's been out. It's rated PG, and it was put out by Angel Studios. So I think a lot of people were taking their kids, because the screening I went to, there was a lot of kids in there with their parents, and thinking, oh, good, an animated film from Angel, Animal Farm. Okay, folks, this is not what the original book was based on, but this is, I don't feel, a kid-friendly movie rated PG. So it's not even G, it's PG. Let's watch the trailer to find out why.
Many seasons ago, we all dreamed that one day animals would be free.
We are going on vacation.
What does that say?
It says, Laughter House.
That sounds awesome. I love to laugh.
It's a slaughterhouse.
We're all gonna die! We did it! Animals run the farm!
Freedom!
All animals are equal. What could possibly go wrong?
Our experiment is working. All of us together. It's time to farm again.
Never saw the sun shining so bright.
Is milk ain't gonna drink itself?
It's supposed to be shared.
Noticing the days hurrying by.
There is no supposed to anymore.
Love, my how they
This is less than yesterday. Or more than tomorrow. Depends on how you look at it. Move along, sheep.
Blue skies, smiling. This is all wrong. Can't you see what's happening?
Our dream was becoming a nightmare.
It's our farm. Our home.
So what do?
We rebel. And we start right now.
All animals are equal.
I have to fix all of this.
Some are more equal than others.
Blue birds singing a song. Nothing but blue skies.
Did we plan this? No, this was not part of the plan.
From now on.
Animal Farm.
A cautionary tale. In theaters May 1st. Recommended for ages 11 and up.
Isaac, I mean, this is, you think, oh, pigs and farm animals, and they're doing their own farm. What a sweet story. Yeah, that's what I thought. Until you're in there and you're realizing that it's based on that book, which is all about, the capitalism and the anti-capitalism, and it's separate societies. I mean, it's got adult themes to it, but they did it with kids. Seth Rogen stars as the major pig, which turns out to be the mean pig. But the story starts off where they're all getting along with the animals, and then it starts separating off. Well, there's a sheep that has too much information. So as the older wise sheep is walking off, the little pig who learned from this wise sheep said, where's the sheep going? And Seth Rogen's pig, who's the mean one, says, oh, they're taking care of her. Dobermans are taking her down a path. And then he says, we never saw her again. So every adult knows they went and killed that sheep, but, doesn't say it. But, I saw kids going, where did it go? Where did it go? Asking questions, right? Because that was not clear. And then the pigs start taking over. They separate the other animals. They're abusive to a horse who later dies in the film because he's exhausted from working for everybody else. There's an evil woman that wants the land to turn into a dam, and they build this. They get money and they go buy everything that they want with all the money that they made. And then now they don't have food for the winter. The animals don't because they spent all their money. And then a wicked woman comes in. She wants to have the land and build a dam. And it's just destructive and dark. And by the end of it, it's not like it's a happy ending because they're either been killed or pulled away, carried away, or there's just a few animals remaining. It's not what I feel like parents think it's going to be, and especially from Angel. And I was very disappointed. This is a PG rating, so parents pay attention. If you've got a 5-year-old, this is not a G-rated movie, okay? It's PG, parental guidance. So you had to calculate what age your child is and what they can accept this story. The Sheep Detectives is a much better film, a sweet film, a happy film, a charming film. If you're going to choose between a movie to take your kids to, go see The Sheep Detectives. Yes, it's got a thing where Hugh Jackman reads and then, he passes, but it's not heavy. It's not morbid. It's lighthearted. It really is. And it's how these sheep work together and they bond, and it's a community. So I would say choosing between the two of them, Animal Farm is not your choice. And I'm sorry if you go and you loved it. Maybe it was just me that day, but all through the movie, I saw kids leaning up and asking their moms, questions and trying to figure it out. And when it was over, there was no laughter, there was no clapping, there was no happy kids, like we saw, in the other movies that I've been to, Project Hail Mary, for instance, where kids are cheering, and other films, Animal Farm. The Sheep Detectives, even, they love. No, so I would choose a lighter, happier movie.
This is so unusual for us, Holly, because we normally really very enthusiastically promote Angel Studios properties. So, yeah, this is kind of strange.
I'm shocked that it passed the Guild. I think it's only because Andy Serkis, you guys, Gollum and all of the Lord of the Rings movies and the voice of that, and he's been in the Planet of the Apes and the Return of the Apes, and he's been, but he directed this. Okay, he took it over and directed it. I think that's the only reason why why Angel maybe would have done this is because of him, because otherwise I'm shocked that it passed the Guild.
Wow. I tell you, again, we bring all this to you so that you can, as Holly always says, choose your movies wisely.
Yes.
I don't think we're saying, no, absolutely don't go. But we are saying, hey, Holly just said, here's what you'll find in it. You decide if it's something you want to be a part of.
Right.
Well, Holly, another wonderful show today.
Thanks, Isaac. It has been. And remember, everyone, like you said, choose your movies wisely these days. You have a choice for your kids. There are multiple things out there, so choose wisely.
That's right. You can also choose to check out our website, Faith on Film TV. That's Faith on Film TV, where you will find, by the way, links to a lot of our other shows that we've done in the past. If you've only seen our last 5, 10, 15, I don't know, there's like another 250 more that you can check out. Well, Holly, that's it for today.
Blessings, everyone.
Write to us at faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. That's faithonfilmtv@gmail.com. And follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and X at Faith on Film TV. Also, visit our website, faithonfilmtv.com. That's faithonfilmtv.com, where you'll find links to all of our past shows and much more.